My name is Sally. I've spoken before about my journey with the transformation process and how all-powerful the change of heart it brings about in humans is. Every day we live with the golden truth of integrative meaning. We learn and appreciate more about the development of humans and their resulting understandable upset condition. And naturally we also learn more about how this is played out on a personal level. As I nurtured and loved this process along, I had some realisations about my life as a resigned human, and I saw very clearly and how necessarily and understandably how I had to live, until now, under the duress of the human condition. Well, these realisations about my personal story, I wanted to share the main one with you in the event that you might be able to relate, and that somehow might help you on this exciting journey on the Sunshine Highway that we are all on to the transformed life force state and our freedom from the chains of the human condition, that state of despair, confusion and agony of not knowing if we were good or bad. I wanted to preface that the only reason I was able to gain this clarity was through making the fundamental decision to live my life in support of and for this information and project, instead of continuing to live out my resigned state. And to further preface how wonderful and exciting that this is actually all possible now, due to the awe-inspiring scientific biological breakthrough that Jeremy Griffith has been able to provide about the issue of the human condition. I really can't say it any better than these words which lead the World Transformation Movement's website. Finally, the dreamed of biological explanation of the human condition that ends our species' underlying psychosis and transforms the human race. Also, because I'm going to talk about my personal situation, I thought it's important to reinforce what Jeremy says in Freedom, Book 2, which is Section 2.1, the Transformed Life Force State, about how we, as the transition conduit generation, need to act very responsibly with this information, and why the transformed state is so powerful and necessary. To quote, and it's underlined from Jeremy. Very importantly, while we each should investigate these understandings of the human condition sufficiently to verify to our own satisfaction that they are the understandings of the human condition, we shouldn't investigate them to the extent that we start to become overly exposed and confronted by the truths they are revealing. The first step for me was to get proactive. I actively decided to let this information in, by which I mean I actively decided to use my brain to really understand what this information is saying, and applied that to my life. By this, I mean that I decided to trust my understanding and knowingness that this logical, biological explanation of the human condition is the truth about humans, and that while we humans appear to be bad, destructive, upset forces, we are in truth fundamentally worthwhile. Our upset developed for a very good reason, but it doesn't define us or the meaning of life. We are worthwhile, and as we can now understand, the meaning of life is to be selfless and loving. I thought it was important to explain here why I've used the word trust, because it can get confused with faith when this information is the opposite to that. It is rational, testable, logical biology. As Jeremy explains throughout his work, the challenge is to think, question and understand, a process that is the very opposite of abandoning thought and deferring to some form of dogma, faith or relief. And that this information is brain food, not brain anaesthetic. Our false resigned framework is so powerful, and it is something we have trusted and had to hold on to since resignation, that using the word trust helped me to recognise that while previously in the resigned framework I was trusting a lie over the truth, now that in the transformed state of mind I have effectively switched sides and now trust the truth over the lies. Anyway, this focus allowed me to shift from someone competitively and defensively thinking that the transformed life force state was a place to get to in order to prove my goodness and worth, to someone drenched in relief, seeing that the transformed life force state is a secure, logical response to recognising that the insecure-driven human condition paradigm is over, allowing me to actually accept my upset state and then focus outwardly on repairing the world now, beginning with taking this information to the world. As Jeremy so beautifully explains in Freedom Book 2, Section 2.1 about the transformed life force state, you can know now that all the upset in ourselves and in the world from 2 million years of humanity's heroic journey through ignorance is explained and defended. With that knowledge, we are now free to leave the issue of all that upset behind as being dealt with and focus all our attention on developing a human condition-free new world. The relief of being able to leave the issue of our upset state behind as dealt with, and the excitement of knowing a human condition-free new world is coming, and that we can all fully participate in bringing that about, is so absolutely incredibly relieving and exciting. It will transform all humans. From being a human condition oppressed and depressed alienated person, all humans can and will now be transformed. I love this bit. Into redeemed, liberated from the human condition, exhilarated, ecstatic, enthralled with existence, transfigured, empowered, world-transforming life forces. This description can be distilled down to liberated from the human condition, transformed and empowered life forces, which can be further distilled down to transform life forces. This exhilarated, ecstatic, enthralled with existence aspect is the life in life force, and the empowered, world-transforming aspect is the force in life force. So life force covers the personal benefit and the benefit to the world in one word. Jeremy also says in Freedom Book 1, section 9.1, about the transformed life force state, now that we have the truth up, all that matters is that it is kept alive and that it is disseminated to all people, because it alone can heal the human race and save the world. All everyone must do now is support the truth about the human condition, and it will achieve everything everyone has ever dreamed of. If we look after this information, it in turn will look after the world. That is the mantra of the new world that understanding of the human condition brings about. Having grown up in the dark, so to speak, without understanding of the human condition, the priority of existing generations is to get these insights to new, fresh generations so that they won't have to adopt all the artificial ways of coping with the human condition, all the dishonest denials, all the egocentric means of seeking compensation for the injustice of being unfairly condemned, and all the angry retaliations needed against the unjust condemnations that existing generations have had to employ. We, the existing generations, are now the conduit generations, the generations who will connect the old dead world to the new living world. The new transformed life force state is not only all-powerful in its ability to heal the world, it is also all-exciting. When yesterday the prospects of the world looked hopeless, suddenly, and I have said this in every major document I have ever written, from one end of the horizon to the other, an army and its millions will appear to do battle with human suffering, its weapon understanding, and its outcome, world reparation. So to get to my main realisation that allowed me to access the transformed life force state. This realisation is my version of the honesty that Jeremy explains is key to being able to truly consider letting your selfish, resigned way of living go and take up the transformed state. Until I was able to use the full defence and therefore let go of my resigned way of defending myself, I was unable to see that I was actually feeling criticised by this information. This really astounded me because I knew the defence of our upset that this explanation provides is the very thing that liberates us. But I realised that I wasn't really embracing that defence on a deeply personal level. Our resigned states are necessarily so insecure and sensitive to any perceived criticism that they can wrongly feel that the truth about the human condition is just another attack, is further criticism and confirmation that we are bad. Being able to see how I was misreading the liberating defence as more criticism from the world that I felt I had to defend myself against was my unlocking point. I was not seeing that, yes, this truth is naked, but it is also dignifying. I was blind to the fact that I was actually being confronted by this information. How much we can't cope with confronting the extent of our upset is something that Jeremy constantly warns us of, and what the transformed way of living solves for the transition generation. The transformed state allows us to productively support this information without overly confronting our upset. Trying to support this information while continuing to try to convince yourself that you're not an upset person isn't a really extremely difficult and illogical thing to do. I know, very well. But it's incredibly exciting when you realise that you and all humans don't have to live that way anymore. Accepting your upset state is the most liberating decision, which frees you up and gives you access to live in the all-out excitement that the future now holds. Initially, I didn't stop and use my brain and let this information in to defend myself. I didn't use it to say, in my case, Yes, I am an angry, defensive, doubting, indecisive woman who is very strong, but has been war with the world. But there's a very good reason for all of that, and it had to happen. But I can truly let it all go now, because the fright to prove we are good is over. It has been won, and I can relax, rest and put my strength behind the information that has made this remarkable, fabulous situation now possible, so that people now and in the future can see that they too can at last be truly happy and at peace with themselves. We can repair all the pain and upset that has plagued us, and the future will be free of the human condition and the agony and trauma and terror of not knowing if we are good or bad, not being loved as we expected and deserved to be loved, and therefore not being able to love others. Now I and all humans can love the way we had to live, the way we survived in the world without this precious understanding, but it is so over, and it doesn't define the way we live. The transformed life force state is truly the best, most powerful technology the world has or will ever see for our transition generation. And even better than that is that it is so easy. All you have to do is use the truth instead of the resigned lies. It all comes under the, of course, that was life under the duress of the human condition banner, and none of it matters now. All of us have a choice now. We can choose to remain in the vortex of terminal alienation, as depicted in Jeremy's amazing The Abyss of Depression and the Sunshine Highway to Freedom drawing, or we can wrap it all up in a golden sheet, tie it with a golden bow, put it in a golden box, place it in a golden hospital, give ourselves a really big golden hug, and walk across the golden bridge to the golden bridge of the Sunshine Highway to the sun, and live truly defended and understood, and live for and in support of this information to bring about a golden, human condition-free present and future for humanity. The information explains the fundamental misreading we all have as resigned humans, that we are good and not bad. For me personally, I realised that the world wasn't against me, that no one was attacking me, and that I wasn't a bad person for being an upset person. And understanding that freed me from that torment and made me so happy. If an angry, defensive, doubting and indecisive person like me can be happy, then imagine what's possible for all humans. What a blessing. Thank God for this life-saving information. It is all that matters, and humanity can move onward, forward and upwards. And an aspect of all this that absolutely thrills me is the fact that the pain and horror of the human condition stops with us. That is our job, our wonderful privilege and legacy. The destiny of the human race is not terminal alienation. It is freedom from the horror of the human condition. Humans will never have to live in agonising terror of the fear that we are bad. Because of what Jeremy has been able to do, and with our transformed state's support of that truth, this will happen, and it has to happen now, urgently. We are so lost, so alienated from ourselves, but that all ends now, simply with changing our state of mind. So let's celebrate. I love watching the affirmations, and in particular I get a real kick out of the Denialators' 2 songs that are also up there. So I thought it might be a good way to end with their Understanding is the Key, We Are Dead, 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 but Now We Are Free, Free, Free song. So take it away, Denialators.
This morning after such a long night, the relief drains my body with its awesome sweating all night. The shadows are lifting, the horizon is clear. Wanna scream to the heavens and the time is here. The door's wide open, understanding is the key. The door's wide open, understanding is the key. We're being so dead, dead, dead. Now we're free, free, free.
Sal, I just wanted to say that was just awesome, and I loved how you finished with the videos, and also just getting up in front of everyone and sharing all that with us. It's just great, and there's just so much in what you said to think about, and I've noticed that with all the membership meetings. I've started actually print out the transcripts, and because there's so each time, and even watching them again, there's just so much in them. But just something that came to mind when you were talking was there's a quote in Exodus where Jeremy just says something like, you know, understanding the human condition allows us to love ourselves and each other fully, equally, and without reservation. And I think it's an amazing quote, you know, because we've never had the truth that explains and defends us. And in our resigned state, like you said, we don't actually let that truth in and let the information carry that burden and take care of who we are. And I mean, there was so much in what you said, but another thing that you said that I really liked, when you were just sort of talking about the technology and how this is such a powerful technology, and you said how you do have to be proactive with it, and you have to go to the information, and that sort of really hit home to me. And also, because in the resigned state, you can't, the truth, you know, from being a resigned human, you see the truth as hurtful and oppressive, and to get past that misreading, and actually there's always a resistance about going to the truth, but if you go to the truth and actually start engaging in it and get proactive with what it's saying, that it actually comes to you and holds your hand. And the other thing I liked, you said something like, you know, our false resigned framework is so powerful, and it was something that we've had to trust since resignation. And you talk about how you've sort of got to have that mind switch, and how it's sort of 100% from trusting that resigned state to trusting the information and what it says. And I just love that too. I mean, it was all through, you know, the stuff, all the affirmations that Clarkie was playing, and Dougie's and stuff. So that was great. And I just. And I think the last thing in all of that was just that point about, you said something about, you know, I was misreading the liberating defence as more criticism from the world, and getting beyond that, and actually just accepting rather than fighting the reality that you're an upset human, and letting the information in. Anyway, I'm just rambling a bit, but I just thought it was awesome. So thanks heaps, Al.
Oh, it's this information and how powerful it is, and the transform lifeful state is just that all-powerful technology that we all live now. Like that's how we live now with it in the world, and it's just fabulous, and it can solve all the human pain and upset and suffering.
Yeah, that's the thing I was thinking. Like, I just remember when I was a little girl, before I, you know, got taken out with all the preoccupation and having to resign myself, and all I wanted to do was for that suffering to end in my family, and the fact that we can do that now is just incredible. And that every human deserves this, you know, it's for everyone.